This is the story of Sasha Samsudean and how her security guard invaded her apartment and murdered her. What was the reason for him committing such a heinous crime? Was this a well-planned murder or an accident? Sasha Samsudean, a 27-year-old social media manager in Orlando. She graduated from the University of Florida and was very successful. Her coworkers loved her bubbly and happy personality. Sasha had a habit of going out partying most weekends. Who knew that one of these late-night parties would draw her to the night she was brutally murdered? Sasha had recently moved into a new place at Uptown Place Apartments. She was very excited about upgrading her apartment, but what she didn't know was that moving to a new place also came with its own fair share of risks. It was the last day of the soccer season. Sasha and her friends were out supporting Orlando City in their purple jerseys. When the home team won, she and her friends decided to go to a party and celebrate. They went to the Attic nightclub and partied until 12:30. A close friend of Sasha, Anthony, told authorities that she was ready to leave, but then they got separated. It was common for them to get separated and meet up at some other bar, but that night, Sasha didn't meet him again. He also said Sasha was supposed to meet him the next day for breakfast, but she never showed up or answered any calls or texts. Worried, Anthony and two other friends arrived at Uptown Place Apartments and found Sarah's car. They tried knocking on her door, but there was no answer. Worrying the worst, Anthony called 911 and filed a missing persons case.
Hi, I need to fill out a missing persons report. We went to her apartment to go check. She's there, and she's gone.
And what is her first name?
Her first name is Sasha.
The police arrived at 8 p.m. and made the most gruesome discovery. The dead body of Sasha Samsudean was lying under her bedsheets. She was found laying in a state of torture with clear signs of strangulation on her neck. Sasha's blouse was also torn, indicating assault. As the police investigated the scene, they kept smelling cleaning supplies. Someone had the time to clean up after the gruesome act. Her phone, purse, and keys were also nowhere to be found. But despite cleaning everything up, the murderer made one crucial mistake. There was a mysterious thumbprint found on Sasha's toilet seat lid and an imprint of a shoe. Now the only question is, whose prints were these? The police swabbed Sasha's entire body to find any DNA of the murderer, and her body was sent for an autopsy. The medical examiner said that he had never seen any internal neck fracture as severe as this. Uptown Place Apartments had about 15 security cameras as well as on-site security men working 24/7. Stephen Duxbury had joined Uptown Security and was working there for around 5 months. Stephen told police that he had seen Sasha coming home that morning, and he did not let her in as she did not have any keys or an ID. According to Stephen, Sasha had entered the building through another resident that opened the door for her. Stephen was looking all over the building for Sasha, and when he found her, she was failing to put the code in and get into her apartment. He told the police that Sasha had asked him to walk her to her car, as she might have left her keys in the car, but as she was walking to her car, Sasha ran back inside after saying she had recalled the code.
And we didn't even go to any car because maybe 5 steps out. She's like, wait, I think I remember the code now. I then bring her back to the thing. She starts trying to punch in codes again. It's still not working. At this point, I'm like, I gotta keep doing my job. So I'm gonna go do another sweep. And if I come back and you're still not in your apartment, we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with the situation.
Stephen had gone for his rounds around the building, and when he returned, Sasha was gone. Later on, Stephen found her with a man he hadn't seen before.
I saw her again at some point later on. It didn't really document it because I wasn't sure, and there was nothing suspicious about when she and the gentleman I saw her with were doing. They were just walking in the hallway.
Based on that statement, the police needed to find out who this mystery man was, and if this man was related to the murder of Sasha Samsudean. The police finally managed to get their hands on the CCTV footage of that night, and despite it being a really crowded night because of the soccer game, the police managed to spot Sasha on several cameras on her way to her residence. She was wearing white jeans and a purple top that made her stand out. On the footage, we see her walking alone on a busy street. Later, we see her again, but this time she's being accompanied by 2 other females. Luckily, the 2 women came out and cooperated with the police. In their interrogation, they stated Sasha was very drunk and didn't have her keys, so they wanted to escort her home. They decided on getting an Uber. As soon as the Uber arrived at the Uptown Place apartments, Sasha pointed out the building and dashed out while it was stopped at a red light. The woman followed her to the entrance and walked until she was able to enter the building. But since Sasha did not have her keys, she couldn't get in. Here, the security guard, Steven, entered the story. He told the woman that he could not let anyone enter the building unless there was some sort of building ID on them. While they were talking, a resident opened the entrance for Sasha and let her in. Steven carried on to talk to the other two women until eventually both women left thinking that Sasha was home safe. Steven went back in later and searched for Sasha, as he stated before. Up till now, everyone's stories had matched up, and there wasn't anything that could make the police suspect anyone. In Sasha's apartment, the police had found her iPad that was connected to her social media. Through that, the police discovered some texts that Sasha had sent the night of her murder. Two suspects were called in based on Sasha's texts. Number one was Benjamin Roebuck, one of Sasha's exes and the man she last texted before she was murdered. And number two, Taylor Unsinger, another ex of Sasha's, and someone who had been texting back and forth with her after their breakup. The autopsy report showed that Sasha's estimated time of death and the text to Ben at 5:12 a.m. were oddly very close. This did raise some eyebrows towards him. Ben was called in for an interrogation, where he mentioned he had plans with Sasha over the weekend. He had been texting back and forth with her, but as friends.
When's the last time you actually spoke to her on the phone?
It was probably that night that we went out together. We probably, talked just to, meet up, and so probably, Tuesday or Thursday, whichever day that was.
And that was Thursday.
Yeah.
So Friday, you never spoke to her on the phone.
Mm-mm.
So it's just text.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When's the last time have you ever been to her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you were there?
It was probably inside the apartment.
Inside the apartment.
Probably a couple months ago at this point, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Okay.
Why do you say inside?
Because, I picked her up, when we were going out somewhere or something like that, I'd pick her up and take her out, but never, I haven't been inside, like I said, in a while.
She's kind of a private person, like with her apartment. It seems like very many people went there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I honestly didn't ask too much about, her personal life because we weren't dating. So
Okay.
it wasn't a ton of my business what she was doing in her personal time. But yeah, she didn't bring a ton of people over to her apartment, I guess.
And now you guys with you guys hanging out and everything, were you trying to rekindle the romance, or?
No. Like I said, we were just more friends than anything because we'd always been really close
Sure.
in terms of friendship. So we were just always there to kind of support each other when we needed it. If she needed a ride, she'd call me, vice versa, that kind of stuff. So, and advice if you're having a tough day or whatever it is. So, it was mostly just to stay friends because, like I said, we were close and kind of had that same kind of mindset and understood each other. So.
Again, we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't ask. We have to ask our questions.
Absolutely.
Did you go to her apartment late, or her apartment building inside late Friday night, early Saturday morning at all?
No.
Okay. So we watched the cameras. We're not going to see you entering that building at all.
Correct.
Okay. You had your phone with you all night?
Yeah.
Your phone won't show you at that building at all?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Ben also had an alibi, stating that he was somewhere else that night. Ben willingly let the police take a swab test of him, and this eliminated him from the list of suspects.
The last thing, Ben, that I'm asking that we're asking all the guys who we're interviewing who knew.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab?
I'm sorry?
A buccal swab?
What's that?
It's like a DNA swab of your inside of your mouth.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Okay.
I'm just happy to help in any way I can. Like I
We
said.
appreciate that.
We do appreciate it.
Taylor, on the other hand, still thought of Sasha as a love interest. According to his interrogation, he'd been texting Sasha back and forth and wanted to rekindle their love.
When was the last time you actually seen her?
I saw her October 1st.
Did you guys go as a couple?
No. But I'm always willing to see her.
Okay. Were there any problems?
Not at all. Nope.
But the relationship had ceased.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Was there any talk about trying to get back together?
We didn't really talk about it, but it was something that I always thought that we would,
Okay.
down the road.
That time, did she see anybody else?
She didn't really share any, information about who she was dating or who she was seeing.
Okay.
I'm sure she shared that with, some of her other friends. I think Lindsay knew who she was seeing, but that information she would never really share with me.
How did you feel about that?
That was fine with me. It's, her personal life at this point. I mean, we were, not together anymore.
Understand.
So we weren't exclusive or anything like that, so.
Okay. So you handle that okay then?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He also had an alibi saying that he had been working a shift in the bar that night, making it impossible for him to be the one behind the murder.
Do you know where you were last Saturday?
Last Saturday,
Yes.
I was at work
Okay.
in the morning or
Around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Let's say late Friday evening or early
I was
Saturday
home.
morning.
I was home. I got off of work Friday night at about 9:30. I had bartended because there were some bartenders that needed to take some time off, so I picked up a shift for them and I went home and I had my parents over. I had just got a couch delivered that day, so I was excited to go home and hang out, and I went to bed at about 1 o'clock that night.
Okay.
I had to work early, about 10 o'clock on Saturday, and I had to open and close the restaurant, so I wanted to make sure that
Okay.
I got rest.
Okay.
And you were you got to the restaurant the next day about 10 o'clock, you said?
Yeah. Saturday.
I also must ask you, did you have any involvement in the murder?
No, sir.
Do you know who murdered?
No, sir.
He also let the police take a swab test of him, thus eliminating him from the suspect list entirely as well.
Okay. Do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab of DNA?
I have no problem.
Okay.
It was at this point that the police were left scratching their heads about who the murderer might be. The police revisited the CCTV footage of the Uptown Place apartments and rechecked everything frame by frame. On one camera, Sasha could be seen entering the building at around 1:46 a.m., with a resident following her. Sasha was intoxicated, and the resident asked Sasha if she was all right. If the statements made by other people connecting to this case were any true, this was supposed to be the resident that helped Sasha enter the building. At 1:48 a.m., Sasha is seen heading up the stairs. She disappears from the camera view for 20 minutes, and at 2:06, she's seen running up the stairs. But this time, she was being followed by the security guard, Steven. Just like Steven stated in his interrogation, he followed her to her car at 2:25 a.m. They're seen leaving the building and returning. As stated by Steven, Sasha had remembered her door code. At 2:27 a.m., Sasha and Steven were going up the stairs again. But this time, only Steven came back down, locking the building entrance at 5:14 a.m. This was the last time Sasha was seen alive. The murderer had exactly 2.5 hours to commit the crime, if everyone's statements were true. The police were still searching for the culprit, and they were getting to a dead end. Until one statement became suspicious. According to Steven, his shift ends at 6 a.m. But on the night of the crime, Steven did not leave at 6 a.m. Rather, he finished his shift at 6:39 a.m. and was seen taking out the trash, a task that the security guards did not have the duty of doing. On closer inspection, the police found out that the trash that Steven threw away was taken from Sasha's house. Immediately, a search warrant was issued for Steven's home, and the police found a similar sneaker that had the same imprint as the one found at Sasha's crime scene. Everything was now pointing at Steven. The police asked Steven to come in for a polygraph test, asking him if he even went inside Sasha's apartment, to which he answered no. But the polygraph indicated deception. When asked, was Sasha choked, Steven answered no, but his heart rate shot up quickly, indicating that he was the one who murdered Sasha Samsudean that night. Despite having a suspicious polygraph test result, the courts ultimately dismissed it and only looked at the hard evidence presented. The police took Steven's fingerprints and matched them with the thumbprint found at the crime scene. The prints matched and the case was built. The police also went through Steven's phone history and were shocked to see that he had searched the term "how to override a quick-set keypad lock," the same lock that Sasha had on her door. This internet search happened at around 5 in the morning, almost 3 hours after Sasha was last seen alive. Steven also had Sasha's bite marks on his left arm that he had covered up, meaning Sasha did not go out without a fight. The Orlando police chief showed up at a press conference later that day.
Stephen Duxbury is charged with first-degree murder, sexual battery, and burglary to an occupied dwelling. As a security guard, he used his access to prey on someone who was very vulnerable. Our hearts go out to Sasha's family. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, and we hope that this will bring a little bit of closure or start the process of closure for this family.
The Orlando court, after seeing all the evidence and after going through a horrible case of Stephen's defense slandering the character of a murdered woman, the juries made a decision and found Stephen guilty. Stephen was sentenced to life in prison. Sasha's parents got the justice their daughter deserved. But even after 2 years in an interview, they say that the grief doesn't stop.
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Someone to hold your hands, someone to guide you through the system.
We help ourselves by telling our stories, but we also help them by listening to their stories.
Sasha had a funeral at a private ceremony after the tragedy, which blended Hindu, Islamic, and Christian practices. Sasha's parents now offer support to all those who come to them and have lost their children to some tragedy.